Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. I am going to do something a little bit different today. I did a reading this morning on the collective. And what I got, I wrote it down and then I recorded it on my phone. So I'm actually going to use my phone and the camera, and hopefully that'll work. Um, I'm going to take Maxwell's um, advice, and I put the computer on a more solid place, which wasn't easy to figure out, but I got it with the sun behind me to try and get better video. I'd like to go ahead and first of all show you all that I am down to 1,406 views in the past 28 days. So it's gone down a little bit more. I'm telling y'all, it's not gonna be long. They're gonna completely do away with this channel. I'm gonna see about how this is gonna work. I probably should have tried this, given it like a practice test to see how well this is gonna work. But here we go. I've done a reading for this morning, and what I've got so far is there's a Queen of Wands here who is imbalanced. She's spiteful, she's a bully, she's a troublemaker, causing a lot of family dysfunction, domestic disputes. She's being isolated or moved away from a social circle. This Knight of Pentacles, who I believe is in a union with her or married or something, he's a stable individual. He works hard. He's found himself in a lot of conflict, but he's trying to move away from this. There's a thief here that's creating illusions, and there's a message that he has for this thief, this magician who's in his dark side with this soon-to-be ex-wife who's attached to the devil. They're both attached to the devil. He realizes that this is a third-party situation and competition that he didn't really even know that he was in. There's possibly some fierce words, maybe even a fight. He's heartbroken. The message here is, of inspiration and confidence and enthusiasm despite, what they've tried to do. There's a nurturing, dependable, generous woman here with the Queen of Pentacles that is still moving forward despite what's happening. And there's a community, it seems, that is behind her. We've got the King of Pentacles here, a wealthy man who is in an organization, and they seem to be rather curious about this star and how she has released or detached from this loss and this pain and these tears, and how she persevered, through all of this. With the sneaky, deceptive, cunning thief that took her comfort, contentment, and peace from her. There are next steps being taken by this emperor, who I believe is a masculine authority figure, in regards to this nightmare that was created with this entrapment, imprisonment, trying to keep somebody stuck in the past with nostalgia and fond memories. And that's the truth. We have this Page of Swords here that is a great communicator, a quick thinker, honest and direct, sent by the Almighty to sound the trumpet on this justice for this high priestess, with support and assistance, and with a lot of contemplation up here with the Four of Cups. There will be a victory. There's been a lot of heavy burdens. This feminine energy managed to stay nurturing and empathetic, and someone is quite attracted to that and wants a partnership, whether that be, in work or, romantic partnership. There needs to be some clear intentions, with efficiency and ideas. They can take a stand with this King of Cups who's wise, and sees the situation from a centered and balanced place. I believe this could be a judge. He sees the isolation, the gossip, the competitiveness over this gift or opportunities that this, and he's in his feminine energy, being supportive and nurturing and trying to bring help and balance. He's trying to bring balance by bringing in a tower swiftly, um, with this Knight of Cups who's chivalrous and coming in from a loving place, bringing back happiness, light, and success to this fool's journey, so she can leave things behind with confidence forever so that she can recuperate from the situation, from the trauma and the pressure and the grief and the sadness by helping bring an end. Sorry about that. The phone rang. We're going to finish this off. End to all of this and being able to move on, to come into union with her inner teacher, create provisions for herself, to create thoughts and ideas and emotions filled with light. And that is what I have so far. I believe there's more, but I'm going to leave it there for the time being because I have some things I need to do. I'll read again later and see what comes out. That's what I got. That's exactly what I got this morning when I did my excuse me, when I did that reading. I did it on the collective, but it sounds an awful lot like what my story is, doesn't it? Sure does. So I want to talk about some things that just don't make a lot of sense in my head, and see what y'all think. Give me your opinion. So my daughters were told, that I had a brain tumor, and in my oldest daughter, when I saw her at Manisha's funeral, her first response was, when I talked to her on the phone about the funeral, she asked me, well, do you want me to come? I said, are you coming to Manisha's funeral? And she goes, well, yeah, do you, if you want me to. And I was like, well, why wouldn't I want you to? Which was very odd to me that was even something that she would have to ask me. And that made me question, some things that just made me question, why wouldn't I want you to be there? What don't I know? So while there, she didn't stay in there for very long because my grandson started throwing a little fit. So she went out in the hallway. We didn't really see each other again after that, but we did talk on the phone. And she started getting really aggressive and kind of yelling at me, and was saying something about me being paranoid and she's not going to be able to, be around me or whatever because because I had a brain tumor, which I was like, what the are you talking about? Then she started talking about, you need to go get help. And I was like, Samantha, I don't have any medical benefits. She goes, well, I thought you did. Well, who told you that? Because I didn't tell you that. And then, my so-called friend, who was, supposed to be, she was actually playing both sides. Betty was playing both sides of this whole thing. She would tell me stuff, and then I'm sure she would go back and tell them stuff. I'm positive that that's how that worked. But she was telling me, how Samantha was acting strange, and she thought Samantha was acting strange, and I thought she was acting strange too. But in any case, the questions that I have, the thought process that I'm having is, if you truly thought that your mother or somebody that you loved had a medical condition that wasn't their fault, that could cause confusion or some kind of disturbances in their thinking, wouldn't you think that you would be a little more compassionate wouldn't you think that you would be a little more concerned about that person instead of being aggressive and saying things like, well, we're not going to be able to see you. You're not going to be able to see your grandson, things like that. Um, my youngest daughter and I are really tight. We just are. I mean, she's the closest person to me in my whole entire life. And she's being told not to talk to me for some reason. Wouldn't you think that if a person had a mental illness, a sickness, a brain tumor, that the closest person to that person would be somebody that they would want to contact, would say, hey, look, why don't you see if you can get a hold of her and see if you can talk to her and see if you can get her to do something about this, because none of the rest of us, which nobody else ever really tried. They just accused me of having it. They didn't ask me if I did. I don't even know where this all came from. I honestly don't know where it came from. I mean, where did it come from? It's made up BS. That's where it came from. But in any case, instead of asking her to talk to me and whatever, they fed her a lot of misinformation, making her, really confused about what's going on. So why wouldn't you have the closest person to that person contact you and be like, hey, mom, I'm worried about you. Maybe you need to go get some, help, or maybe you need to get a scan, or maybe you need to do something. But to be completely cut off, to tell that person to completely cut off from that other person who needs medical attention, doesn't seem like the smartest, most compassionate way to handle a situation. My thinking is that if somebody were in that kind of a situation, in that kind of a state, I would reach out and I would try to do what I could to see if I could help that person. But that's me. And I can't expect everybody to act the way that I would, but that's my train of thought. That's my thinking. When I was in Oklahoma on July 4th with my sister, I was telling her about how I felt like I was being followed. I had pictures of people who were sitting across the street watching me, with a camera. I talked to the police in Hohenwald, Tennessee, and they're like, it's within that man's rights to sit over there and videotape you and take pictures of you. It's within his First Amendment rights for him to do that. It's my responsibility to it was my responsibility to secure my own privacy, is what I was told. So me being in my own yard working out on my machine, um, I needed to secure myself and get my own and secure my privacy in my yard. And it was okay for a man to sit across the street and videotape me and take pictures, is what pretty much I was told. Well, this officer was supposed to call me back and let me know what the laws were on stalking. And he never did. He never contacted me back. So I called the police station and I asked, and I never ever heard another word from this officer ever. I never got a phone call back. I never got a reach out. I never got contacted ever again with any information on what the stalking laws were. Um, so when I was in, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Can you tell? When I was in Oklahoma. All right. So if you knew or thought or suspected that your sibling, and we use that term loosely, had a brain tumor or some kind of a problem, why would you offer to sell that person a gun? Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? If you thought for 1 minute that you had a sibling that was having a mental disturbance, why would you even offer selling that person a gun, let alone selling it to him? Damn good question, isn't it? Um, I was told that my sister contacted my daughter about a friend of mine who works with my mother and was telling my daughter that this person who works with my mother um, was the person who was going against me, and that I was cutting off everybody else in my life, but I was hanging on to this one person who was working with my mom, who was the biggest risk of everybody, who was the one that was the one who was most likely working against me, and had direct contact with my mother. Well, what I want to know is how my sister knew about my friend, because I never talked to her about the people that I worked with. So how did she know that? She was either in contact with my mother or in contact with my friend and my mother, or both, because I never talked to her about a friend that I had that worked with my mother. Interesting, isn't it? Yesterday, when I was talking about my friend Tom, that shot himself, um, my mother was in the morgue, and or I don't know if she was in the morgue or if she heard it from somebody else or whatever, but she found me at work and dropped the bomb on me that my friend Tom had, was in the morgue and he had shot himself. And when she delivered the news to me, she was talking to me about Tom's mom, who, I may have met in passing very briefly, but I didn't know who she was. And she was trying to tell me, how, this person's mom, or, her, I don't want to say her name. Well, for the sake of whatever we're going to call her, Judy. Okay, just it's not her name, but so just for the sake of this, we're going to say Judy. So she was telling me, Judy, Tom's mom, Judy, Judy. And I was like, I don't know who you're talking about. It didn't register into my brain because I only met her in passing. I didn't know her, to know her, to be like recall, if somebody was talking to me about this person, I had no idea. So she started getting angry because I wasn't getting it, because I didn't understand who she was talking about. And then she said something about the son, the other son that shot himself, and Bon and about Tom, and then about Judy. And I was like, "You mean Tom Hatfield?" She's like, "Yes." And I was like, I was dumbfounded. I mean, Tom was somebody that I thought about and loved dearly my whole life. And the fact that she was a little pissed off that I wasn't getting it, because every time she had to explain it to me, every time she had to tell me, it was losing her momentum of trying to hurt me, which exactly what she was trying to do at work, nonetheless, which I do believe is a HIPAA violation for her to tell me something like that, anyways, because I wouldn't have known. There's no way I would have known that Tom had killed himself if my mother hadn't have told me at work, at the hospital, while he was in the morgue. I had no clue. And nobody ever reached out to me, friends, his family, nobody ever reached out to me to tell me that Tom had passed away. It was my mother, and only my mother. That's the rest of that story from yesterday, because I realized I got sidetracked. But I wanted to explain that because it it just goes along with the whole always trying to hurt me, always trying to um, cause me strife and cause me grief and cause me pain, and just constantly trying to bring chaos into my life. You know, a lot of crap, a lot of karmic bull crap. And that's the way it's always been. Always. I really don't have a lot of positive memories of my childhood. When I was with my grandparents, yes. With my parents, there are far and few between. There are a lot more bad than there are good. When my dad tried to throw my mom off the third floor balcony, there's that. We lived across two apartments complexes that were facing each other. My aunt and my uncle lived down here on this bottom floor on this side, and we lived up here on the third floor on this side. And my dad and my mom got in a fight, and my dad tried to throw my mom off the third floor balcony, and I smacked my dad upside the back of the head with a pan, trying to save my mom. Well, he let go of her. Thank God she, had the hand railing. Even though my mother was the way that she was to me, I still loved her. I did, you know. Then there was the time where we lived above the auction in Edgewater, Colorado, in Denver, and I was at school. I was taken to school, and I was told to stay there until she came to pick me up. So I stayed at school until she came to pick me up, and she did tell me, "Don't you leave here, because if you leave here, I'm going to beat your butt. You stay there until I come and get you." It was dark by the time she came and got me. She had my brother with her when they finally pulled up in the pickup truck, and I got in, and I was scared, and she goes, I got in the truck, and she started laughing, and she goes, "Oh, I forgot all about you." My heart sunk. I was so afraid sitting out there, and I felt forgotten. And and then she told me that she forgot me. And then she looked at me and she called me a dumbass. "Well, you dumbass, why didn't you just walk home?" "Because you told me if I left here, you were going to beat me." There was no winning, ever. Ever. There was no winning. I don't care how many times my mother looked me in my face and told me she loved me. I don't believe it. And she didn't when I was a kid. She didn't. I didn't start hearing that until I was an adult. But I knew by the look in her face, I knew by the actions from my childhood, and I knew in my heart, and I know in my heart, that my mother does not love me. She talks about me badly behind my back. And she tries to make people think that I'm something that I'm not, just like my sisters. All of this got worse when my sisters came into the picture. I have only met my sister Misty once in person and spent maybe a week. And we're talking off and on. We're not even talking a full week. We're talking, hours at a time together through this week. I met my sister Jody twice. The first time was like a weekend, one whole day together, a night together, and then the next day we all went our separate ways. And then that week that I spent in Oklahoma on July 4th. But she was working, and I probably spent more time with the kids than I spent with her. There's no probably, I did. But I should have known that there was something that was weird, because I felt the same way with her and her family as I felt with my ex-husband David and his family. Felt the exact same way. Like it didn't, like there was just something was missing. You know, it wasn't a arms wide open, you know, come in. There was a wall, a barrier, something that was there that just that wasn't right. You know, now that I look back and now that I see that, you know, now that that was a red flag. You know, obviously that was a red flag. But yeah, I'm sure y'all saw that message from her, or the comment. There was a comment that she made about I had mentioned something in a past video about, you know, being twins or something like that. You know, still in the process of trying to figure this all out because nobody tells me anything. I'm just going with what I'm being, you know, my feelings, my intuition, you know, what I feel like I'm being told, and I do feel like I have a twin somewhere. You know, I do. I do. But she removed that comment about her being 16 years. I'm 16 years younger than you. I don't know why she removed the comment, but she did. Hmm. Anyway, um, I imagine, you know, all of this will settle itself at some point. God's timing is definitely not the same as mine, because if it were my timing, we'd be done with this a while back. But I know that that what God is doing is more than I could ever imagine, and I know that there's going to be a fix that God's going to do that's going to be absolute, and there won't be any denying what's happening. So for that, I'm very thankful. All right, y'all. Well, I'm going to go. I'll do another reading later. Still trying to figure, you know, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm not ready to do it live yet, so I'm going to keep videotaping like that, and I'm writing it down so that, you know, I can go back and reference. Love each other. Love yourselves. And I love you. And for those that don't know, this is I love you in sign language, okay? All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Take care.